Who do we vote for? Sometimes our friends and our loved ones would tell us who we should vote for. We can say, I should vote for who? That person or this person? But we can't rely on the counsel or the pressure of friends or loved ones. We certainly cannot rely on the national media. It is very important that we look to our consciences.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Keep in mind this idea of conscience because Bishop Barron is going to explain more of what this means towards the end of the video.
We don't have a shared set of values often. When you had that, then you could argue, like, well, hey, we all agree to X, Y, and Z. Therefore, now we can fight about prudential decisions under the aegis of those values. But when the values themselves are marginalized, and my experience and feeling becomes the sole value, well, then I can't really argue. All I can do is shout.
Those who haven't voted yet, let me just be clear, no judgment, but you still have time.
Your vote on Tuesday, I will end inflation. I will stop the invasion of massive numbers of criminals that have come into our country.
We voted. I'm nervous. I'm very nervous.
Hopefully they both have good intentions of bringing the country together. I think that should be one of the main things in keeping America first.
In Georgia, we have an opportunity in this election to finally turn the page on a decade of Donald Trump who spends full time trying to keep us divided and afraid of each other.
So friends, we know that we're in a pretty fierce campaign for our national offices right now. We're seeing and hearing a lot of name calling and exaggerations. My goodness, we've witnessed 2 attempted assassinations of one candidate. We are truly living in crazy times. I think we're all ready for this campaign to come to an end. And it will come to an end when we approach the time for us to cast our vote. I want to remind everyone that as Catholic Christians, we understand that it is a moral duty to vote. It's not an option. In fact, as Catholic Christians, we understand that the call to vote is similar in terms of a civic duty as paying our taxes. We are bound morally to vote. In fact, not to vote, to purposely not vote, is actually a sin of omission. We are bound as members of this country to cast our vote. It is a civic duty, not an option, not something nice to do, but a civic duty. We are bound to vote.
What are some other ways that listeners to this episode can form and shape their conscience? We're about a month away here from the general election. They agree with you that we need to think with the church and vote with these Catholic principles in mind. Other than reading Forming Consciences for Faithful Citizenship, maybe watching those videos, what else can we do to form our consciences in line with the church?
Before Bishop Barron answers this question, I want to remind us all of what Bishop Barron's principles for Catholic voting actually are. First principle that Bishop Barron provides is he asserts that Catholic social teaching transcends the divide between Republicans and Democrats. He has a via media approach. While each party aligns with certain Catholic values, Democrats with social justice and environmental issues, for example, and Republicans with pro-life stances and traditional family advocacy, neither political camp fully represents, key term here, does not fully represent the entirety of Catholic dogma and doctrine. Barron emphasizes that Catholicism does not fit neatly into any political party. You can't just say that the Catholic Church is entirely aligned with either the Republican or Democratic Party. Catholics must recognize this when making electoral choices. Very crucial. The second principle is that Bishop Barron prioritizes the defense of human life. This is very key, as it is foundational upon which all other goods depend. So the issue of human life and abortion in our country is such a big deal, but it connects to all the other ones. For example, Barron argues that opposition to abortion also influences our views of euthanasia and capital punishment. Okay? So all of these different issues should be central to our decision-making on who we are to vote for. The third principle insists that Catholics may not vote for a candidate because of a morally repugnant position, but may vote for them despite it if the other values balance out the objectionable stance. Bishop Barron here always basically says that you should never vote Democrat because you are pro-abortion. You would have to vote Democrat in spite of this morally repugnant position. And lastly, Bishop Barron states that while Catholics should align on core moral principles, they may legitimately disagree on the means of achieving those ends, as practical approaches often require prudential judgment. So that's basically to say that these decisions are not easy, and there's gray area. It's not black and white. There's gray area that has to be solved. And the way that we do that is through forming our Christian conscience. We need to form a Christian conscience so we know how to vote. Now, Bishop Barron provides more detail of what that means and how to practically live that out in this clip. Check it out.
Well, I would talk among yourselves. It's good to have conversations. So let's say you get like-minded, not even like-minded, get Catholics in the same room and that would share the basic principles, and let's talk through the issues. Because another important distinction, Brandon, we've made it implicitly, but between principle and prudence. So principle, the great moral values involved. For example, that the unborn are to be protected. Absolutely. That's one of the great principles, that we never directly attack the life of an innocent. That's an absolute moral principle. There's no debating that. That the poor should be cared for. Of course, that's a great principle. We have a preferential option for the poor. It's essential to Catholic teaching. But in that second case, is there a distinction between the principle, care for the poor, and the prudential judgment? Well, how best to do that? So let's say you've got a Democrat and a Republican, Catholics. They both agree caring for the poor is a supreme moral value. All right, good. Now, how do we do that? And the liberal Democrat might say, well, I think through these social programs and this and that. The conservative Republican might say, yeah, we've tried those, they haven't worked. I think enterprise zones within economically depressed parts of cities is a better way to go. Fine. Have a debate at the level of prudence. And the church, mind you, should not get involved in that discussion qua church. Now, might I, for example, Robert Barron, have an opinion about that? Sure, I'm a citizen of the country. I can have an opinion about, well, what's the best way to address this issue? But the church, so now as Bishop Barron, my job is not to say, oh yeah, and by the way, that piece of legislation here, that should be favored, or no, don't go that route. No, that's descending too much into the realm of prudential judgment, where it's the laity. That's where the laity, I think, have a real primacy.
So there's two takeaways, I think, from this video. One, we are to vote. We must vote. We have a civic duty to vote. So if you haven't voted and tomorrow is election day, you need to vote. The second thing is that we need to form a Christian conscience so we know who we should vote for. And then you need to make a Catholic and Christian informed decision predicated upon the conscience that God is forming in you as you seek and draw near to Him. All right, that's all I have for this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.